Hi, my name is Kathy Henry, and I am a licensed clinical social worker in the Indianapolis area. And I'm talking today about how to heal a broken heart. First of all, if you're watching this because you are currently suffering, I just want to say that my heart breaks for you. I am so sorry for your loss, for your pain. We are all put on this planet, and we experience both the good and the bad. We experience the suffering, we experience elation, sadness, euphoria, those times when we're on top of the world and all seems right. And also, we have wild successes, but we also, unfortunately, have heartbreaking losses. And that's just all part of the human experience. We fight it most of the time, but that's what we are supposed to experience while we're here. When your heart breaks, whether it's due to a divorce, a death, a breakup, you learn of an infidelity, or some other part of your life has blown up, here's what you need to know about healing your heart. First of all, it is supposed to be painful. And I don't mean to be callous or to minimize your pain, but I so often see people shaming themselves for not being over it sooner or for still being in pain. They also often have unrealistic expectations about how long they should be in pain and how long it will take for them to heal. So understand that it is supposed to be painful. You will be suffering, and that's part of the normal course of grief. Second of all, others don't understand what you're going through. So to put it simply, don't listen to them. People will be well-meaning and say it's for the best, or this is part of God's plan, or they might even say you should be over this by now, which what they're really saying is they don't want to watch you go through this. They're suffering because they're watching you go through this. And it's not up to them. It's not up to other people to determine how long this should take for you. You have to figure this out on your own, and you will go at the course that is right for you. So I encourage you to tune out some of these well-meaning and also the callous comments. Don't take them personally. Instead of focusing on that, just focus on what it is that you need. The next thing to know about healing your heart is that you need to take care of your heart during this time. You've been through something horrible, something very traumatic, and you need to give yourself what it is that you need during this time. This can range anywhere from bubble baths, taking nature walks, going to church, talking with a friend, indulge in a day off under the covers at home. It's okay to do that. You've got to treat yourself constantly throughout the day. We often don't recognize the severity of emotional wounds. If you broke your leg and you were walking around with a cast and crutches, everyone would be tending to you. They'd offer you a seat, they would go get things for you, and so forth. And this would go on as long as you had the cast on or you had the crutches, because they can see that there is something wrong. People can't see your emotional wounds, and so they think you're over it. You look fine, but inside you are still broken and torn and mending, and it takes a great deal of time, not just 6 weeks, to get over those emotional wounds. I remember learning about when I started reading a book about grief that it talked about how some people get psychotic in their grief, and it just made me feel so much better because I kind of did get psychotic in my grief. My anger was over the top, my hurt, my pain, felt like the world was coming to an end, and that was the natural process for me. Obviously I have to be careful when I'm in that much pain about what I do, but when I figured out that that was not uncommon, that it was part of the normal process, it made me feel better to think I wasn't crazy. The next thing to look for or to work on in terms of healing your heart, I really, really encourage you, I beg of you to please resist the urge to look for and reach for quick comforts. Things like alcohol, drugs, sex, spending, one person seeing the furniture that his wife had removed from the home. He went out and bought $5,000 worth of furniture the next weekend because it was too painful for him to see those holes where the furniture had been. And that's seeking quick comfort. That is not going to help you get where you want to be. It will feel good in the moment, but it will not help you heal. So the book that I read about grief was by Judy Tattlebaum, and it's called Courage to Grieve. It broke down the stages of grieving into 3 stages, which made a lot of sense to me and really explained what I was going through. The first one is shock and numbness, and that is exactly what it is like. I was in emotional shock, and it takes a while to get your head wrapped around what's going on. The world is going on like nothing happened. And a lot of times we're really angry about that. Why doesn't the world slow down? This horrible thing happened and I suffered through it. And why are they still going on like it's normal? I know for me, I felt like the Walking Dead for a couple of months, where I was going through the motions of life, but I was dead inside. And it just, the pain was so overwhelming. All I could do, and that's what this stage is about, is just survive it. And as we work through that shock and numbness, like I say, there's really nothing you can do about it, just survive it and do what you need to do for yourself. Do a lot of those self-care activities while you are going through this shock and numbness stage. The next stage is suffering and disorganization. Exactly as it sounds. You are reeling from the pain. The pain is becoming a reality. Instead of being dead inside, all of those emotions now are waking up. And you're realizing that life as you knew it has blown up. It is shattered, and the pieces are laying all around you in a disorganized state. It takes time to accept that this actually happened. And you may still be waking up and wishing it were a nightmare. I remember a time a friend of mine wanted to go out to eat, and she said, "Hey, let's try Korean food." And I said, "I can't. I can't have one more new thing happen in my life right now. I had had too many changes. My life was too disorganized, and trying a new food was too much for me." The good thing is I knew my need. It came to me instantly, but it was just too much. And so again, in this stage, you are realizing that you have survived it, and you're starting to deal with now your new life. Eventually, and I want to stress eventually, you will move into reorganizing and reinvesting in your life, the 3rd stage. And this is when you slowly begin to put the pieces of your life back together again, and your new life begins to form. And not only will it begin to form, you'll start seeing the future rather than just seeing in the moment. But as your new life begins to form, it will also start to feel a little bit more normal. And again, this is a very slow process, and you've got to pretty much complete those first 2 stages first. But in this stage, you are reinvesting in your life, and you can begin to start seeing yourself happy again and thriving. I know I began for a while, for a long time, I thought I'll never smile again. And I was wrong. Absolutely, I learned to find joy in life again, and you will too. But it does take time. It's okay to feel whatever it is that you're feeling right now. In this stage, you will move from surviving to thriving, and your life will reform and become something that you can live with, that you can manage. So if you are going through this right now, I mean, first of all, I'm just so sorry for your pain. It's there's nothing worse than suffering a huge loss and dealing with that pain. It just stops your life in its tracks. But I promise you, you will get through it. If you can't see life ahead of you right now, that's okay. Just right now, work on surviving. And give yourself the time that you need. Give yourself the things that you need. Get in touch with those feelings. If you need to cry, cry. That's probably one of the best things you can do for yourself. Let yourself go through this process at your own pace, nobody else's, just your own pace. And know that healing doesn't happen overnight, but it absolutely will happen. I promise. So let me finish with a poem by Cara di Giovanna. It's called After a While. After a while, you learn the subtle difference between holding a hand and chaining a soul. And you learn that love doesn't mean leaning, and company doesn't mean security. And you begin to learn that kisses aren't contracts, and presents aren't promises. And you begin to accept your defeats with your head up and your eyes ahead, with the grace of a woman or a man, not the grief of a child. And you learn to build your roads on today, because tomorrow's ground is too uncertain for plans. And futures have a way of falling down mid-flight. And after a while you learn that even sunshine burns if you ask too much. So you plant your own garden and you decorate your own soul, instead of waiting for someone to bring you flowers. And you learn that you really can endure, you really are strong, and you really do have worth. And you learn, with every failure, with every loss, you learn. Thank you for listening.